National.
This is our associate producer, Mary Richards.
Millions of fans remember Mary Tyler Moore. She went from housewife to career woman and helped define an era. Donald Trump's bewildering claim of massive vote fraud.
You're more likely to get bitten by a shark who's won the Powerball lottery.
Why Canada's an offshore haven for tax evaders.
They're doing what I call snow washing.
Plus a refugee family 1 year in. The pressure builds to find work and make connections.
Never be afraid of anything. Never be shy.
Well, he won the election and he's been sworn into office. So many are wondering why the new U.S. president keeps talking about large-scale voter fraud. He did it again today. The CBC's Lindsay Duncombe has the latest.
Pre-dawn on the 5th day of his presidency, Donald Trump continues to tweet like a sore winner without a grasp of the truth. He vowed to investigate voter fraud, including those who are registered in 2 states, those who are illegal, and even those who are registered to vote who are dead.
They vote twice. There are millions of votes, in my opinion.
Claims he repeated in an interview with ABC News.
We have a lot to look into.
Trump has blamed his loss of the popular vote on as many as 5 million illegal voters. There is no proof of this. Even Republicans want to move on.
There's no evidence of that, and I think that those who allege that have to come up with some substantiation of their claim.
I've seen no evidence to that effect, and I've made that very, very clear.
Yesterday, Trump's press secretary defended his boss, saying
he continues to maintain that belief based on studies and evidence that people have presented to him.
What evidence? Trump's pointed to this Pew study before, but it has nothing to do with voter fraud. Rather, it identifies problems with voter lists, which the study's authors say have gotten much better since their 2012 research.
You're more likely to get bitten by a shark who's won the Powerball lottery than, find someone who committed voter fraud.
And critics point out that in trying to quash Jill Stein's failed recount attempt, Trump's own lawyers argued there was no widespread voting fraud. What's a press secretary to do? Apparently, argue the boss meant something different than what he tweeted.
This isn't just about the 26th election. This is about the integrity of our voting system.
From Democrats, concern and pity.
I frankly feel very sad about the president making this claim. I felt sorry for him.
I mean, anything that makes him look bad or doesn't make him look good is something that he is willing to just tell bald-faced lies.
So why is Donald Trump bringing all of this up? Some believe it's strategic, a way to tighten voting laws in favor of Republicans. Others say it's impulse, driven by ego. Lindsay Duncombe, CBC News, Washington.
After his early morning voter fraud tweet, the U.S. president turned to 2 key campaign topics: illegal immigrants and the Mexico border, signing 2 executive orders. He directed officials to begin building a Mexico border wall, then called for several actions: that all illegal entrants at the border be detained, that thousands more Border Patrol and immigration enforcement officers be hired, and that federal funds be cut off to so-called sanctuary cities like New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles, which do not enforce federal immigration laws against illegal immigrants. Donald Trump is also sparking debate over a pledge to move the American embassy to Jerusalem. Jerusalem is Israel's capital, but as Derek Stoffel explains, recognizing that fact, even symbolically, carries political risks that have scared off other presidents and even a prime minister.
Never mind the sun-soaked beaches and the calm waters. What's got everyone talking is just across the street, the American embassy to Israel. Donald Trump, like Bill Clinton and George W. Bush before him, promised to move the mission from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. That's the Canadian embassy behind me. With Jerusalem such a contentious issue, all countries that have diplomatic relations with Israel keep their embassies here in Tel Aviv until the final status of Jerusalem can be determined.
Up there in Abu Tor,
the city's mayor says moving the American mission would be a big boost to the view that Jerusalem is the country's undivided and eternal capital.
And by moving the embassy, better than late than never, is recognizing, understanding, aligning interest. It's a very important statement.
But it's also controversial. Israel captured East Jerusalem, annexed it, although that was never recognized by the international community. The Palestinians want to establish the capital of their future state in eastern Jerusalem. They worry Trump's move could seriously harm the two-state solution to end the conflict.
Any move by the U.S. would disqualify the U.S. as any kind of peace broker or partner in peace. It would make it complicit in Israeli violations, and it would destroy the chances of peace and provoke extremism and violence throughout.
The prospect of another Palestinian revolt and the potential damage to relations with Egypt and Jordan has some Israelis asking if the embassy move is worth it. The Arab world also worries that recognizing Jerusalem as the Israeli capital could lead to restricted access to important Muslim holy sites.
The National.
Canada has been down this road before.
The two-day-old government of Joe Clark appears headed for its first diplomatic crisis.
Joe Clark promised to move the Canadian embassy to Jerusalem back in 1979.
We now have an opportunity to take an action that will back up what we've been saying. We intend to do it.
But he backed down after becoming prime minister, worried about a backlash from Arab countries, something Trump could very well face if he presses on with his promise. Derek Stoffel, CBC News, Jerusalem.
Coming up, after 1 year in Canada, these refugee youngsters are fitting right in.
But you like to talk in English?
Yep.
But what about the others? At a crucial juncture, the Farwan family lets us into their lives. Mary Tyler Moore, beloved actress and cultural icon, has died at the age of 80. She's being remembered today as a transformational talent who broke women out of a small screen's cage. Whether they were as conventional as June Cleaver or as quirky as Lucille Ball, women on television were almost always married homemakers until the Mary Tyler Moore Show. Moore's character, professional, single, and respected in a co-ed workplace, was revolutionary. Television hasn't been the same since. But as Eli Glasner explains, that isn't where Moore's legacy starts or ends.
Who can turn the world on with her smile?
Before there was Liz Lemon and Murphy Brown, there was Mary Richards, the modern woman who led the way with a smile. Growing up in Los Angeles, Mary Tyler Moore got her start at an early age in commercials. But it was her 1961 role as Laura, the wife on The Dick Van Dyke Show, that made her a household name.
You know something, darling? For a married man, you say the nicest things.
What a nice thing to say.
Speaking with Larry King in 2015, Dick Van Dyke remembered their first meeting.
She had this kind of mid-Atlantic accent, like a Katharine Hepburn. She, within no time at all, became as good a comedian as I've ever worked with. She was just sensational.
Afterwards, Moore moved into musicals, including playing a nun next to Elvis Presley. But in 1970, Moore and her then-husband formed a new company to create her own show, riding the rising wave of women's liberation. As Mary Richards, she was the stable center in a newsroom of crazy colleagues.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Ted.
Say, listen, Mary.
If anyone wants you, you'll be in your dressing room with Georgette answering your fan mail.
Mary, you interrupted me.
Oh, sorry, Ted.
All right, what I was going to say was exactly what you said.
More than funny, Mary stood out because she was single, outspoken, and career-focused. In one episode, she even fought for equal pay.
I'm doing as good a job as he did.
Better.
And I'm being paid less than he was because...
You're a woman.
At the beginning, test audiences gave the show poor ratings.
They hated everything. They thought I was a loser. How come I was 30 and still wasn't married?
But with women battling for equal rights in the streets, workplaces, and their homes, Mary struck a chord.
My mom was a single mom. There was something so thrilling for all of us about watching a show about a woman who wasn't married, who was a boss at her office, and she was not criticized for that or reviled for that. In fact, she was celebrated for that.
After the show ended, MTM Enterprises went on to create many other programs, including giving an untested comedian his first shot. At the time, no one knew if Bob Newhart could act, but Mary had a hunch.
That came right from the top. That came from Mary. She loved people. She loved actors, and she loved taking chances.
It's French toast.
She also enjoyed a successful career on film, surprising many with her Oscar-nominated performance as the icy cool mother in Ordinary People.
Put that on if you're going to stay out here, okay?
In real life, Mary Tyler Moore was open and honest about her struggle with alcoholism and diabetes. She won 7 Emmys and 3 Golden Globes, but perhaps her greatest reward was how she affected her audience.
She showed us that you could sort of persevere with grace and with grit, and you know, that whole throwing the hat in the air, you're gonna make it after all thing. She inspired a generation of women who went into the media.
Eli Glasner, CBC News, Toronto.
Much of Moore's mark on television was made behind the camera. Her production company was itself a potent force in TV. MTM Enterprises was something of a 1970s and 80s hitmaker, responsible for popular TV series including, as you heard, The Bob Newhart Show, Remington Steele, and WKRP in Cincinnati. A Burlington, Ontario woman is recovering after an extraordinary surgery believed to be a world first. Melissa Benoit was losing a fight against a deadly infection while waiting for a double lung transplant. Then surgeons made a radical decision. Health reporter Vicadopia has her story.
A quiet moment with her daughter, one that might never have happened a year ago, had Melissa Benoit not undergone a remarkable procedure.
I had no idea what happened.
Did you know you were getting a lung transplant?
No.
As someone with cystic fibrosis, bacterial lung infections were common, but one last spring spread throughout her body, shutting down other organs as she started drowning in her own lungs, too far gone for a double transplant.
They called us in and said that she became septic and they took her off the transplant list. And I knew right there that we lost her. We were losing. She was not going to survive the night.
That's when doctors proposed a bold procedure that existed only in theory: remove Melissa's infected lungs and wait for her to stabilize for a double transplant.
All I heard was there's this 1% chance of this surgery working, and I didn't hear anything after that. It was like, let's do this.
This is a device used to replace Melissa's lungs. It works by removing the carbon dioxide from her red blood cells and then oxygenating them. Normally it's used to assist with lung function, but not replace it. The equipment was not intended to keep someone without any lungs going for 6 days.
It should be technically possible, but ultimately you really do need a brave patient and a team that says, okay, technically it's possible, here's our chance to try.
Melissa only learned of her ordeal after the successful transplant.
I thought it was a piece of science fiction. I'm a nurse as a professional, and of course I had never heard of such a thing in my entire life.
It's taken months of rehabilitation for Melissa to recover.
The prognosis, I don't think anybody knows. I'm the first in the world that they've tried this on. I'll be the first in the world to see how long we live.
Melissa has already made medical history, but she still has cystic fibrosis. Vicadopia, CBC News, Toronto.
Today, market watchers marked a milestone as the Dow Jones Industrial Average closed above 20,000 for the first time. A simple to calculate number based on the stock prices of 30 large companies. The Dow is famous more for its history than its accuracy at reflecting the market. It was first compiled in 1896 and broke the 10,000 mark back in 1999. It's among several major stock indexes that have hit record highs thanks to strong earnings figures and expectations of loose regulations and public spending under a Trump presidency. If Canada is known around the world for anything, it's probably that we are polite and that it's cold, but primarily polite, nice and peaceful. So, new revelations from the Panama Papers, that huge leak of international tax records, are sure to come as a big surprise for many, including Canadians who kind of like their squeaky clean image. Dave Seglins has the story.
When most people hear the words offshore tax haven, they think tropical beaches, exclusive enclaves where the wealthy stash their riches. But snowy, sleepy Canada?
We know that Canada is one of the most opaque jurisdictions globally.
This forensic accountant says tax cheats abroad are turning to Canada to set up shell companies as a way, on paper, to hide their global business.
Well, the problem is that there's no transparency around the ownership or the true ownership of many companies.
A case in point in Quebec City. One address found in the Panama Papers is linked to over 60 companies, set up by a Swiss businessman for Russian clients, hundreds of millions of dollars in paper activity. But when our reporters went knocking, no one's ever heard of these companies or their owners.
Bonjour. Bonjour.
No evidence they ever did any real business here.
Ça vous dit rien?
Absolument rien.
This is exactly what Panamanian law firm Mossack Fonseca was selling to clients. Leaked memos promote Canada as a go-to country to set up paper companies as smokescreens to dodge taxes. Internal emails detail how the companies could file false information. Simply declare no activity, says one email. In other words, cheat a bit. Our investigation has found dozens of international tax advisors promoting Canada on their websites as a tax haven, a place to set up a company.
They're doing what I call snow washing.
This Toronto tax lawyer says Canada's clean reputation can be used as a smokescreen.
Because you've got this entity that's in Canada, banks or other parties in other countries are going to presume that it's legitimate and okay because it's Canadian, because it's pure as the driven snow of the Great White North.
Just how many companies registered in Canada are shams being used to evade taxes? Well, no one knows. As one leaked email from the Panama Papers says, it is impossible for authorities to check the books of every single company in Canada. Dave Seglin, CBC News, Toronto.
Longtime parliamentarian Marcel Prudhomme has died. First elected as a Liberal in 1964, he went on to be re-elected 8 times in his Montreal area riding. Brian Mulrooney appointed him to the Senate in 1993, and he took his seat as an independent. Marcel Prudhomme was 82. Thousands of New Brunswickers remain in the dark tonight after an ice storm knocked out power right across the province. There's still some freezing rain in some regions. Flooding is causing extra problems in others.
It looks like the furnace is gone. The washing machine is floating. The freezer is floating. I think the dryer, I think that sank. All our Christmas decorations are floating around there, and some old stuffies that were in storage. Nothing says disaster like a floating barrel.
Milder temperatures in many areas have turned last night's ice into today's water, and lots of it. About 100,000 homes are still without electricity. The biggest concentration of outages is in the Moncton area. NB Power says it may take a few days to bring everyone back online. The man convicted of killing an elderly Alberta couple has been sentenced to life in prison. Travis Vader was convicted of 2 counts of manslaughter in the deaths of Lyle and Marie McCann. They disappeared during a road trip in 2010. Their bodies have never been found. Vader told the court today that it has convicted an innocent man. The man once called the central figure in the Liberal sponsorship scandal has been sentenced to 4 years in prison and a $1.4 million fine. The Crown said former party organizer Jacques Corriveau set up a kickback scheme on contracts awarded during the sponsorship program. He was convicted of fraud against the government, forgery, and laundering proceeds of crime. Corriveau is appealing the conviction. And the Dutch man charged with cyberbullying Canadian Amanda Todd went on trial in the Netherlands today. Aidan Coban is also charged with abusing 34 other young girls and 5 gay men online. Todd was 15 years old when she posted a video on YouTube about being bullied online. She later took her own life. Coban faces a separate charge related to Todd in Canada. Usain Bolt is still the world's fastest human, but Thanks to a former teammate's failed drug test, he's no longer a 9-time Olympic gold medalist.
A clean start.
The IOC made it official today. Jamaica's leadoff runner in the 2008 4x100-meter relay had doped. Nesta Carter tested negative then, but his sample was retested. So Jamaica's win, a world record at the time, is void. All 4 runners will have to return their medals, including Bolt. Straight ahead, a Syrian refugee family 1 year in. Some are adjusting better than others. It's been 1 year since the Farwan family began a new life as refugees in Lethbridge, Alberta, a vastly different place from their native Syria. You've already met them a couple of times on The National as they've tried to adapt, but this time is different. Their government sponsorship has ended, so there's more pressure than ever to make it as new Canadians. Once again, they are giving us extraordinary access, so you'll get to see where they're thriving and where they still need help. Here's Adrian Arsenault with a family at a crossroads.
You have to wonder what sort of first impression a surprise Lethbridge cold snap leaves on those new to Canada. And what of that frequent first home, the Lethbridge Motel? This was where the bewildered Farwans initially lived a year ago.
السلام عليكم. شو عمي؟ كيف حالك؟ شو اخبارك؟ شو صحتك؟ الحمد لله على سلامتكم. الله يسلمك على شو اخبارك؟ مرحبا عمو.
Now, Halil and his eldest sons are back at the motel, not as guests, but guides, for another new Syrian family plucked from refugee life in Jordan. Isa El Salam, his wife Samaher, 4 kids, and another on the way. It's so cold outside, they're all confined to the small room, have been for a few days. Echoes of what the Farwans endured, which is why Halil steps up.
شلون انجليزياتكم؟
عيسى كويس
ماشي وانت؟ لا معك شهادة سواقة انت بسوريا؟
معي شهادة سواقة
كويس يعني هون ما بتستنى سنة تسوق. بجيب لك كتيب تبع السواقة.
يا ريت تساعدني.
لا ان شاء الله لا هي زلمة وشو بدك يعني حاضر والله.
نحن جايين جدا
الله لا والله الله بدك كل الشباب هون طيبين ولا تخاف بدون اختيار. بدون ما اخترتك يعني تكون هون بالمدينة او اني اخترتك وكذا تواجدنا هون فيعني لازم نكون اخوة فعلا اخوة.
Destiny. This is where the CBC first met the Farwans just over a year ago, harvesting the olives from an orchard in Jordan. They were just one of hundreds of families who'd applied for Canada's refugee program. It was a demanding process. That euphoria of finally finding out they'd been accepted, suddenly matched by the reality of saying goodbye. Family left behind, and an entirely foreign world ahead. After a year, there are plenty of routines and not a lot of rest. For Halil and Huda, long, slow days wrestling with English classes are bookended by all they have to do to care for 8 children.
How are you?
The youngest, 3-year-old Kauthar, still in daycare. The juggling act of a big family.
علينا ابو احمد. والله بدي كير بالله.
Teenagers back at home, and still another stop. Picking up younger Farwans at the school. And the cold, still a little hard to accept.
Hello, sir. How are you? Good. You need to got ears. And this.
Where there is a will, the Farwans always have a way. And so the 650 bags of pita bread. Sure, it's a big family, not that big.
بالسيارة في 30 لأبو قاسم 60 وهي 10.
Halil has managed to get a group of Syrian newcomers to get together, pool their limited resources, and he buys in bulk for the whole community. Dinner this night, fresh halal lamb they managed to get at a local Hutterite farm, of all places. The fragrance and feel and taste of Syria still so important. These are the Farwans, those kids growing up and Canada growing on all of them. Jibril, the easy grin, is still there. Huda, always watching out for her youngest, Kauthar. Mahmoud, yes, still shy. Halil, of course, remains the optimist. Adam, sharp, popular. Mohammed Eid, Mr. Responsible. Noah, the playful one, see him putting ketchup on his mother's beautiful food? Ahmed, the eldest, keen to make his own way. And Yamama, incredibly quiet, so solitary. What's telling about such a large family is that over time, how they fare will reveal so much about how Canada's refugee system is faring. There are bright moments, and yet some struggles linger. Getting past them is the whole country's challenge.
Go. Can I press it? No!
If you were seeing these three for the very first time, there's a good chance the newness of their Canadian lives wouldn't even register. Kids, as kids do, just fit in.
You learned that for me. No? Yeah.
Since first meeting them a year ago, it's as though their Syrian accent has melted away.
So do you guys mostly play in Arabic or in English?
English.
You like to talk in English?
Yep.
It all gets harder when they get a little older. Mohammed Eid is the second oldest Farwan. Socially, he's a leader.
See, family, we didn't find family.
He is supposed to graduate high school this year with the rest of his peers, but there's a snag.
18.
His English just isn't good enough to enter college yet. He hasn't yet figured out what happens next. Mahmoud is a bit more reserved. He hangs back, lets his brother lead the way. But Mahmoud has the luck of more time, at least another year to find his path.
Playing games is fun. Go.
And Yamama. More than any conversation we've had in the last year, this time Yamama, in her quiet way, starts to open up. And it's not all good. Certainly not all easy.
Some people nice with me, some people have a problem, I don't know.
What kind of problem?
Like I'm scared Muslims like see me and I put hijab and like what's this girl put these things in here.
Most people are good?
Yeah, I'm happy. Really, I'm happy in here. Yeah, but sometimes I feel sad because my friends in Jordan and my grandma and my sibling sometimes feel sad and sometimes no. It's my life. I have to live, not like think about Jordan.
The kids have clearly been having fun with the small camera we asked them to use. This was a surprise when we first viewed the tape. Waves of newcomers to Lethbridge, all dancing to music from home. A jumble of boys and girls together. The older Farwans, a bit shy and on the margins, eventually join in. Can't help themselves. The desire, the need to work is a constant for the Farwans.
One fries, please. One fries, okay.
Ahmed was the first to get employment. A few part-time shifts after school and on weekends. He's serious about it and proud of it.
I like it. It's not hard, it's easy, but sometimes it's busy and hard. Yeah, I like it. You need put the buns?
In the background, always the understanding that his English is still limited.
Oh, it's medium.
The future he wants is bigger than his present, but how to get from here to there? There's the fear his opportunities for future jobs might be restricted. He'll need more training, more education, somehow. Part-time work is exactly what Mohammed Eid wants too. He's landed a job interview at a gas station.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Actually, assalamu alaikum.
How are you? Good.
Good.
Yeah. Good to see you.
Me too. Good to see you.
So,
my name is Mohammed Eid. I'm 17 years old.
Okay.
I'm looking for a job.
He could do far worse than work for the likes of Muzaffar Sheikh, originally from Pakistan. He says he came to Canada nearly 40 years ago with just $30 in his pocket. He now owns several small plazas like this one. That Mohammed Eid needs a little nudge is something he absolutely understands.
Never be afraid of anything. Never be shy.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, I'm not very
Don't
well
worry
on
about
English.
English. You're going to be good in English because you're going to be speaking English here only.
Okay.
So just be having confidence in yourself. You're going to do it and you're going to do it.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
falling for Canada means learning to feel for it. When we come back, when that Fort McMurray fire raged, it seemed to jolt many Syrian refugees, especially the Farwans. The camera in their hands again. Halil, behind the wheel, that's a big step. It took a while to get that license, and he saved up to buy a used van. Those wheels give them wings and a way to explore their Canada.
The pictures tell a terrifying tale. An inferno out of control and
right now, fires are still burning in wooded areas of the northern Alberta city as the heat rises.
When the Fort McMurray fire raged, so many hearts fell. Halil Farwan was gripped with a need to do something.
طبعا يعني احنا المأساة اللي مروا فيها طبعا احنا مرينا فيها من قبلهم انه طلعوا من بيوتهم وما فيش مأوى لهم والشيء هذا يعني هاي مأساة طبعا بس احنا مرينا بالشيء هذا فحاولنا بدنا نساعد بشتى الوسائل شلون يعني الطريقة اللي نساعد فيها.
At first, he wanted to get a few men together to go fight the fire, was talked out of that. Instead, he and other Syrian families donated nearly $900 to the Fort McMurray Food Bank. Huge for people on the margins.
Welcome to the 2016 Immigrant Achievement Award event.
Here's a moment for Halil the family was so proud to record. Recognition for his effort during the Fort Mac fire.
The award winner for 2016 is Halil Farwan.
Good evening, everybody. I am sorry for my little speaking.
Halil had prepared for this speech all day, wanted to deliver it in English, but at the last minute he got nervous and asked for a translator.
When he started laughing, he said he likes two things, talking and eating.
Can you hear Huda and her sons giggling back there? Ever the showman, Halil tries out a line on the crowd.
The last sentence he said, and he thanked too much his wife, so he can sleep at home tonight.
Halil really does struggle with the language. He's bursting to know and communicate more, bursting to work, still dreams of owning the house they are renting, but it all takes time, a frustratingly long time.
Your 5-year plan.
Yes.
Halil's 5-year plan. So you have 4 years left.
Yes.
Are you on track?
Well, of course.
But what if, Halil, what if it doesn't happen? These are big expectations you have. What if at 5 years it doesn't happen?
أي إنسان لازم يكون عنده خطة مستقبلية. أي إنسان. فبيحاول هو يطمح إنه يوصل للهدف هذا. وبيحاول كل جهده إنه يوصل للهدف اللي بدي يوصل له. إذا ما وصلش إنه حاولت أني. بس في كثير عوامل بتحد إني أوصل. بس المهم إني حاط خطة براسي إني بدي أوصل للمرحلة هاي.
And Huda came to Canada for their kids. They remind themselves of that a lot. A holiday party at the school, a chance to step into what must feel like another planet. Connecting, something they work hard at every day.
How different do you think you are now from how you were 1 year ago?
Yes, when you came to Canada, no understand anything. Yes, but now, good.
It feels better.
Yeah, better. مشتاق لكل شيء. أكيد الواحد مشتاق لتراب بلاده، ريحة تراب بلاده. سهول حوران ما في منها.
ولا يوم إلا ما حلمت بسوريا.
What is in your dreams at night?
في شيء كثير، واحد إنه بيحلم بيه. الأهل، أنا عشت تقريبا حوالي 50 سنة بسوريا. من الصعب واحد إنه ينسى أو يتناسى.
Isolation still seems their reality. Huda and Halil social with other Syrian refugee families, but connecting with others in Lethbridge has been hard. Every now and then, though, a stranger reaches out.
Hello.
Hello, how are you? Nice to meet you too. Hello.
You are far ones?
Yes.
English is hard for both of them, but Huda, it seems, is getting bolder, confident enough to talk with someone new.
I have 2 boys here and 3 in the Western Church.
Yes, because you have big families, right? So for a
Very
Canadian, I have big family.
Yes.
But Syrian?
Yeah, big one.
Big family.
Yes.
But welcome.
Thank you.
Immigration experts call that a bridging moment, the sort of connection with locals that can make integrating so much more successful. For such a large family, they have their way of finding their own corners. The little ones enchanted by their screens. Missing from the scene, Mohammed Eid. He got that job at the gas station. On this night, he's on his first shift. So a whole year, they're still trying to figure out how to make ends meet. And their sweet Syria fades from memory just a little bit more with each passing month. But the warm embrace from this place of cold winds has made this home. Adrian Arsenault, CBC News, Lethbridge.
We'll keep you posted on the Farwan family. Right now, stay tuned for this. Online sellers branch out into real stores. There are things a website can't deliver. For a few years now, shopping has been as much an online experience as a physical one. The standard rule, if you have a store, you need a website. Some retailers don't even bother with a brick and mortar location at all. But now it seems the pendulum is swinging back from the virtual to the tactile. Diane Buckner has more on how.
When you're buying online, it's almost like self-serve.
Drew Green is the CEO of Indochino, a Canadian online seller of men's suits.
We wanted to provide an amazing array of selection.
But as you can plainly see, he's touring us through a store, not the company website. Indochino is part of a new wave of online retailers who recognize cyberspace just isn't enough.
The business, grew quite substantially by being an online-only business. But what we really felt was that retail would expose the actual experience and the product to a whole new set of customers that just might not, make that purchase online.
He's not the only one who thinks that way.
Fabletics, made for workouts, designed for real life.
Fabletics, actress Kate Hudson's brand of workout wear, was only available online. It now has several stores in the U.S. American eyeglasses specialist Warby Parker started as online only. It's expanded to include 46 regular retail stores, 2 now in Canada.
So this is $30 off.
And of course, the biggest of them all, Amazon, has opened a handful of physical bookstores in the U.S. and an experimental grocery store. The industry buzzword is omni-channel, meaning retailers want to sell you stuff through any channel you can think of, whether it's online or off. And billions of dollars are at stake. Not that long ago, consultants talked about e-commerce as the future of retail. Bricks and mortar stores, they were practically Stone Age, doomed to be rubble. Turns out it's a major challenge for many companies to get attention online, unless they can spend massive amounts on marketing.
You're increasing awareness. That's essentially what you're doing by having a store.
This market researcher says stores themselves act as a type of advertising.
So if you're thinking how fast you're scrolling through online, how hard it is to capture that audience versus when you're walking through a mall or through a street, there's a longer physical time that you're able to capture their attention.
At Indochino, Drew Green says he has proof of how it works.
In a market that we have a showroom, our online sales grow twice as fast as in a market that we don't. So for example, New York is growing twice as fast as Chicago, where we don't currently have a showroom.
Green hopes to open 150 stores within the next 4 years, an ambitious expansion.
But we believe it's realistic. What I will say, though, is we'll measure as we go. We're not just going to blindly open 150 stores.
More evidence that these days, if retailers want to survive and thrive, they have to be everywhere consumers go, whether it's online or off. Diane Buckner, CBC News, Toronto.
Up next, the cold, hard beauty of winter. It can pop up anywhere. But first, today's business numbers. The TSX added 33 points. The Canadian dollar gained more than half a cent. In New York, the Dow climbed 155 points to cross that 20,000 mark. The Nasdaq also reached a record high. Meanwhile, the price of oil was down 43 cents a barrel. Well, it's been a punishing winter for many, with storms, biting cold, and other miseries. But for others, it's an opportunity to appreciate nature's frozen beauty. These 3-meter-tall ice formations on the shores of Lake Winnipeg have become a local sensation. They're formed by the wind whipping up cold water along the bank and causing it to freeze. Then milder weather melts them a little bit, giving them a unique, jagged appearance. And from strange statues to ice as clear as glass, this lake in northern Michigan froze so smoothly it's almost completely transparent. A local cottager who took the photos said it happens often, but never fails to amaze. And apparently it's not uncommon. This video by an American tourist shows the exact same phenomenon on a lake in Slovakia. As you can see, it's almost like she's walking on a perfect glass floor. Amazing. That's The National this Wednesday night. For news at any hour, you can always go to our website, cbcnews.ca. I'm Peter Mansbridge. Thanks for watching.